Healthy. Pleasant Friday to you. Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome in. Friday free-for-all. Going to get started here in just a second. I'm pulling topics for today's show. I've got some things. You guys know the drill. Whatever you guys would like to talk about is also the subject of conversation here on the show. And so I'm very much looking forward to it. Everything has been tweeted out. Everything is in the right places. We should be able to get started here pretty quickly. Let me just make sure I have all of my stuff. Well, that's not how that works. It's not how that works. But a good Friday morning to you, or a good Friday evening to you, over there in the UK. Jamie, what is that? What is that? What even is that emoji? It looks like a Pac-Man. Looks like a off-brand Pac-Man emoji. How about the Niners still whining 5 months later? Yeah, I saw that thread. I don't really know if that's going to fit into the show, so maybe we can do it here as part of the pre-show. Like, you lost. Just accept it and move on. Like, my team loses all the time. You just learn to lose, and you move on with your life. We're just going to keep whining about it? We lost because we played with 10 people. Debo, no, you had a quarterback out there. Christian McCaffrey getting ready to play quarterback at one point. That would have been fun. Would have been interesting to see. But yeah, it just comes off as just complainy to me. I don't really love it. Not a huge fan. Jamie, are you just trolling now at this point and just trying to find the most obscure emojis that you can? Like, please, it's rare that Eagles fans and players were more gracious after a Super Bowl loss than the Niners after a conference chip loss. Yeah, it's 100% true, Heldy. Like, I don't remember hearing really. I mean, there was some complaining over the holding call late, and that 24-hour. I think that 48-hour stretch post the Super Bowl, was there, but nothing to the level of the Niners being this whiny and complaining about stuff. Man, it's been absurd. Hello, Sports Not. Welcome in. We will file that question away as part of the show here today. You guys know the drill. You take over the show. I'll go to the big screen here. Happy Friday to everybody. Hope everybody has enjoyed the post-draft week that has been here over at TDN. Been having a lot of fun producing some fun shows this week, not only just here on TDN Daily, but on prospects and props. And I will tell you, I have already started putting together the schedule. So this year, and I watch guys on tape, and for those of you who are members of the TDN Premium Discord, you guys know this. I watch tape for our film studies that we do for the TDN Premium members, and I ask questions and I do things like that. Well, this year, we're diving head first. I have created a schedule for myself of quarterbacks to watch. These are not even like real glasses. They're blue light glasses. I've just been staring at my screen a bunch this week. I woke up this morning, my eyes were kind of strained, so I decided to wear the blue light glasses just so that I could not destroy my eyes here on a Friday. But I have put together a quarterback schedule for myself. I'm going to do some summer scouting and watch some of these quarterbacks. And so, again, I don't proclaim to be as good of a scout as the rest of the TDN staff, but I'm going to go a little bit deeper this year, and it is going to be a lot of fun, not just for me personally as a challenge to myself to get better as a football fan and a football watcher, but I'm very, very excited at the content that could come from it, not only for this show, but for prospects and props. I shared the schedule with Jamie the other day, and he was very excited about what it could mean for some good content here on the show. So, okay, you guys know the drill. I'm going to push the button here in a second and get started, but maybe just to recap for everybody, Friday free-for-all, whatever topics you want me to discuss here on the show, you got to throw them in the chat so I can see them and we can weave them in and have a conversation about them. I have some stuff in there kind of in the hopper over here on the second screen experience with some stuff that we can talk about. But obviously you guys drive the show here on a Friday, and we will go for as long as that lasts. So just want to set the ground rules once again here before we get started. So if everybody's ready, if everybody's got their handy Friday beverage ready to go, Chris, will you be able to tell me who the new absolute worst QBU scout is? Need a new Clifford. You know what, Heldy? I can promise you that. I have the list here. Let me pull up the list and see who I think might be the worst quarterback that I'm going to watch here at some point. Obviously, I'm starting with Caleb Williams. That's my first. And then I got Cameron Ward and Michael Penix Jr. I'm just trying to go through the list. There's some guys that I just haven't done deep dives on this list that I'm very, very excited about. What is your favorite Matt Harvey moment in the day he retires? There are two that immediately come to mind. You are trolling me, I think, with the question, but I'll answer it honestly. There are two that immediately comes to mind. The Harvey's better chant when it was peak Harvey and peak Strasburg just dueling it out on what I believe was a Friday night between the Nats and the Mets. That one almost immediately jumps to mind. And then the other, it might be two. I don't know if they're related. I think they were. The bloody nose game in which I'm pretty sure he played the White Sox and went like 9 innings without allowing a run, and the Mets still lost in extra innings. Like, those are the two that immediately jump out. And if they are separate, if the bloody nose incident was separate from that White Sox game, then I'll add both of them individually. But I'm pretty sure that happened in the same game. Mid-Major Lens looking through a new lens. Tuttle, are you making fun of the glasses? Because they are just blue light glasses. We are just trying to fix the eye strain. If you were talking about looking at the quarterbacks and scouting them and looking at all the positions, I plan on putting together my own personal big board this year, which I have never done. So I'm ready for the challenge, so it should be a lot of fun. If that's what you're referencing, then yes, we are looking through a new lens. So, okay, we have filibustered for long enough. We have sidebarred for long enough. We've already got some questions in the chat of things that we want to talk about. Continue to throw them in there. I've got a couple, and we can get this show started here and get underway. And welcome into the Friday edition of the TDN Daily podcast. Chris Schubert back here once again with you on the show. Hope everybody is having a great start to their Friday. We made it to post-draft week. We are moving closer and closer to training camp and moving closer and closer to actual football. We hit this lull. This is that time of year where there's a little bit of a lull. We are together getting through it 1 week at a time. The Friday free-for-all edition here of the show. We've got the live YouTube chat ready to go with a bunch of questions for us. I've got some topics, some stories that maybe we didn't get to throughout the week that we're going to sneak in here to the show today. I love the Friday free-for-all edition of the show. We really, truly turn the show over to the fans here and have a conversation and have some banter, so it is a lot of fun. So, again, those of you listening in the podcast feed, ever more the reason for you to join us over on the YouTube side of things Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to join us and to have a conversation. So I'll start with one of the pre-show questions that I saved here to sneak into the start of the show. Sportsnut asking, do the Lions win their division this year? And listen, we know that the bit here on this show and the bit here in the TDN Premium Discord and kind of the bit here in general is hashtag our Lions, right? And we've bought into what Dan Campbell has been doing. We bought into them last year, thought they were going to be better than people anticipated. It's kind of been our bit here at TDN to jump on board teams, maybe a year early, but to jump on board, take them in as our own and kind of root for them very hard. We did it with the Commanders or our football team, and it didn't necessarily work very well there with Ryan Fitzpatrick getting hurt. But we did it with hashtag our Lions last year, and that one worked out pretty well, right? That one was a good leap by us. Now, I will say this. There are a lot of conversations being had inside NFL media circles jumping on board the bandwagon that we started a year ago. And I do concern myself with the idea that everybody's hopping on board, and because of that, we're being a little too dismissive of the Minnesota Vikings. Minnesota Vikings were pretty impressive last year. First year with Kevin O'Connell as the head coach. I thought he did a very, very good job. I do think if you are going to buy into the Lions being the division winners this year, and by the way, Jamie, you're in the chat. You can correct me if I'm wrong on this. The Lions are the division favorite, at least according to FanDuel, to win that division, right? The Vikings, I believe, have the second longest odds in that division. So the Lions, at least considered in the betting markets, to be the favorite to win that division. And I think if you're going to get to a place where you are picking the Lions to win the division, you are predicting two things. You are predicting another year of this Lions growth from this young core that they've put together. Now, again, not having Jamison Williams for 6 weeks is a pretty big blow. They traded DeAndre Swift, right? But they've got Amon-Ra St. Brown. They added Jahmyr Gibbs in the draft as a pass catcher. They added Sam Laporta, who I think is going to be able to have a nice role. Jared Goff's been very good. They've invested heavily in their defense recently. We know the kind of coach that Dan Campbell is. But you're also betting on the idea that the Minnesota Vikings won basically every close game they could last year. Every break went their way. The miraculous comeback against the Colts. What happened in that game against Buffalo. Just two examples of the Vikings being, and we referred to this on Draft Dudes for the longest time, they're the purple cockroaches. And we didn't mean that as a slight. We just meant that as calling them what they are. They just will not die. They will not go away. They were in every game. And so to me, you're betting on a regression to the mean in that regard of not winning every close game. And you're betting on the Lions kind of taking that next step. Now, if you ask me that question, I can buy that. I can buy that formula being the case to the Lions winning that division of a regression slightly to the mean for the Minnesota Vikings. I mean, last year they won what? How many games? We'll do some research here on the show. You just need a couple of those games to potentially not go the way that they did a year ago, and now all of a sudden you open the door for the Vikings to be in the mix, right? Or the Lions to be in the mix, excuse me. Like last year, the Minnesota Vikings went 13-4, the Lions went 9-8. The Vikings lose two of those games that they ended up, holding on. They're at 11 wins. The Lions are at 9 wins, and it's close. And Tuttle says it in the chat. I think the entire NFC North will all be packed in the 7 to 10 win range, closely contested the whole way. I agree that I think the top part will. I'm still not sold on Justin Fields and the Chicago Bears just yet. That team went 3-14, and I don't know how markedly improved that they will be. Did they get better? Did they add players? Yes. They added a couple linebackers. In the draft, they added some offensive line help. They finally got some help for Justin Fields with Tyler Scott in the later rounds, Roschon Johnson to add to the running back room. Did they improve? Yes. But their draft philosophy overall concerned me very, very much. And I don't know necessarily if I'm willing to say that the Bears are going to go from 3-14 and make this massive jump to be packed into the 7 to 10 win range with everybody else in the NFC North. I'm not there yet. The Packers, I think it's much more easier to get there. I think they had a great draft. I think we've seen some flashes from Jordan Love to make you think that they're going to get decent quarterback play in his first season as the everyday starter for them. To where, they went 8-9, and I think they got better. So, and they lost Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers didn't play that great last year, but I think they got better overall around their quarterback. Specifically on offense, they got better in terms of adding pass catchers. So I would agree with that. Those three teams are going to be very closely contested in that regard, and that goes to show you every one of those divisional games is really going to matter. And I do not believe Sean Clifford will be stepping on the field for the Green Bay Packers in 2023, but maybe they'll prove me wrong. So I think when we look at the Detroit Lions, I think it's very, very easy to understand why people are picking them. They're a team that momentum building. They went 9-8. Right? Momentum building. People love Dan Campbell. People love Jared Goff playing better. People love the young core that this team is building. Again, biggest Amon-Ra St. Brown fan there is. I thought that was an underrated pick at the time. I was pounding the table, every chance I could that Amon-Ra St. Brown was a top wide receiver option for the Lions and in this league. Jamie can attest to this on the fantasy podcast. I was constantly pounding the table that we need to put Amon-Ra St. Brown in that wide receiver one conversation. And so for me, this is a Lions team that is on the rise, and I think there are enough cracks in the Minnesota Vikings from a defense perspective and from a can they actually repeat what they did last year to where you can get there. Heldy asks, for everyone in general, who is the prospect you've looked at in the past few years who came as close to a perfect grade as you can get? Mine was Myles Garrett. I try to – it's hard for me, right? Because this will be my – I'm trying to think. This will be my fourth draft cycle with TDN. And this will be my fifth draft cycle overall. And I think this is the draft class that I will, and I openly admit this, right? I'm very transparent with my growth and evolution as a football fan and as somebody in this space. For me, this is probably the first year where I'll be throwing like actual grades on players and actually looking at players and dissecting them and saying, okay, this is what I like about this player. These are some cons, and it'll all add up to this grade for me. So, I don't know if I can personally answer that question from the context of like a perfect grade, but when I look back at players who I thought were slam dunk, no doubt, guys should go number one overall, Myles Garrett's probably the most recent example of that, Heldy, so I think that's a good shout. Sportsnut says Aaron Rodgers will be a top blank quarterback in the AFC this year. Aaron Rodgers will be a top blank quarterback in the AFC East, or in the AFC this year. Aaron Rodgers will be a top blank quarterback in the AFC this year. Okay, we'll do the thing. We're going to take Patrick Mahomes over Aaron Rodgers. We're going to take Joe Burrow over Aaron Rodgers. We're going to take Josh Allen over Aaron Rodgers. I think those three are slam dunk, no doubt. We got to put those three ahead. So we are, at best, saying Aaron Rodgers is a top 4 quarterback. Now we need to entertain the idea of, would you take 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers or Justin Herbert? Would you take 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers or Lamar Jackson? Would you take 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers or Trevor Lawrence? Would you take 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers or Tua? Those are a couple of options. I think two of those guys I can take above. I can take Rodgers above. Two of them I can't. I think I'll split the difference and say Aaron Rodgers will be a top 7 quarterback in the AFC this year. And I think that's probably the fairest I can be. He could be as high as top 4. But I think, for me, Aaron Rodgers will be a top 7 quarterback in the AFC this year. Anyone know how old Aaron Rodgers is? I believe he's going to be 40, Jamie. I believe that's how old he's going to be. Sportsnut coming in with another big one here. Which team that finished last in their division is most likely to make the playoffs this year? Let's do the thing. We're going to do the thing again. So I will read to you all the teams that finished last in their division, and the chat can jump in here and share what they think. Jets, Browns, Texans, Broncos in the AFC. Jets, Browns, Texans, Broncos in the AFC. Commanders, Bears, Falcons, Cardinals in the NFC. Commanders, Bears, Falcons, Cardinals in the NFC. So I think there are teams that we can immediately rule out. I am immediately ruling out the Cardinals and Bears in the NFC. I think I'm also ruling out the Commanders of year 1 of Sam Howell being the full-time starter. So I just have the Falcons as a potential in the NFC. In the AFC, I'm ruling out the Texans. I'm ruling out the Broncos. I don't know what version of Deshaun Watson I'm going to get for the Browns, and I think that division's tougher. I think if you were going to say most likely, it's got to be the Falcons because they have the easiest path, and that to me is always the answer to this question. Maybe not necessarily how much better the team got, but how much weaker is the division? What's the opportunity there for a team? And I think this is a Falcons team that won 7 games a year ago, and I think they got better this offseason from an all-around perspective. And I think if Desmond Ridder is a little bit better than what he was when he took over last year, they've got the running game, they've got the pass catchers, they've gotten better defensively. I think they've addressed one of their biggest concerns in the offseason by getting some pass rush help. So I think they did good things. Carolina's starting a rookie quarterback, so you know that there's going to be ups and downs with that. Tampa's starting either Baker Mayfield or Kyle Trask, and the rest of that roster is just older, and I just don't know how much I could buy into that. That's below average quarterback play. And the Saints, I think, are the biggest threat, right? With Derek Carr taking over there in New Orleans and being the starter, right? He's probably the best I shouldn't say probably. He is the best quarterback in that division. And so you just have to ask yourself, is the rest of what's around Derek for the Saints enough to completely separate them from the Falcons? And I don't think so. I would pick the Saints to win the division right now because I'm a believer in Derek Carr and I believe in the pieces that they have, and Olave and Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara and Kendre Miller and what they've attempted to do defensively. I'm a big believer in what they've built there, but I think the Falcons have enough of a case. Bender saying I can make a case for the Bears. I cannot make a case for the Bears at all. I just can't get there. I think there's too much praise being put on Justin Fields that I don't think is there yet. I know we all want to like Justin Fields, and I do, and I believe he can be one of the better quarterbacks in this league, but I don't think we're there yet. I think he showed his athleticism and he showed his ability to be a bit of a difference maker in terms of running the football, but it didn't lead to a lot of wins, and I don't know how much better they got offensively. They added some help, but I don't know how much better they got offensively. That offensive line is still a work in progress. I know they added Darnell Wright, but it is still a work in progress. They still don't have a great pass-catching group for me. I think Tyler Scott might end up being their wide receiver, too. I said that yesterday when we did my favorite pick for all 32 teams. Again, I'm not there yet. I can get there with another year of showing progress. I'm just not there yet for the Chicago Bears. Again, they were 3-14 last year for a reason because they had a lot of holes, and I don't know if they necessarily addressed all of those holes in the draft. So, yeah, I would say the Falcons would be my top option. Do you want to throw the Jets in there as option number 2 just because of who they added at quarterback? But, again, I think the Bills and the Dolphins are 2 tough opponents. I mean, the Jets did go 7-10 with subpar quarterback play, so if your argument is you get what Aaron was a year ago, if you just get what Aaron was a year ago, even when he was hurt with the thumb injury, you certainly think there are a couple more games that they could win. They could win that Patriots game that they lost. They probably win the Vikings game that they lost. They probably win the Jags game on Thursday night. Those are 3 wins right there that get you to 10, and all of a sudden you're there in the mix. So you can get there. I mean, I think they would be number 2 with the Browns potentially being like a 2A option or a 2B option. I think those would be the 3 teams that I would pick. I think there's no chance for Houston. even though there's a lot of influx in that division with Tennessee and Indy. I think Jacksonville's still the standard bearer there. Denver, no. Even if Russ plays well, I still think the Chargers and Chiefs are better than them. The Commanders, I think all three teams are better than them in that division, and I think it's going to be tough even just competing with the Giants and Cowboys to finish second with the Eagles. So I would kind of rule those teams out. Sports Nut, does Arizona move on from Kyler if they get a top 2 pick next year, or can they even realistically move from him? Sports Nut, are you trolling me? Please, I don't care if you're trolling me. I just need you to tell me if you're trolling me or if that's an honest question. Because depending on your answer will determine the level of steam that's going to come out of my ears based on the answer. So I'll pause. I'll pause and wait for the answer. You've got the chat talking about how it would be impossible. And there we go. The chat is coming to my side here. The chat is explaining why this is why the steam's going to come out of my ears here. You're not trolling. So this is a very serious. You're seriously inquiring if Arizona do they move on from Kyler Murray if they get a top 2 pick. So Sam Teets is put together the answer here. It would be the largest dead cap hit in NFL history if they were to cut Kyler Murray or trade Kyler Murray at the end of this offseason. Now, he does add the caveat that it would be not that much more than the dead cap hit Atlanta took for Matt Ryan. Now, the argument I would say, there are 2 reasons why I don't see the Arizona. Again, can they do it? Yes. They can just take the excruciating pain that is the dead cap hit and just move on. They can do it. Why I am so steadfast and I get so angry when people suggest this is because you got to ask yourself if Michael Bidwell would do that. That's part 1 of this. Would Michael Bidwell, the owner of the Cardinals, be the guy that takes the largest dead cap hit in NFL history? Would he do that? That's part 1. And then part 2, are you comfortable taking that dead cap hit when you're admitting that we are rebuilding this team, even more so than you probably already are, right? I think what they did in this draft kind of admits where they're at. But mainly a byproduct of the idea of not having Kyler for the first 6 weeks has kind of put them in this situation. I think if Kyler was healthy and was playing this season, I don't know if we'd be having this strong of a conversation about this. But if you get to the offseason and you decide that we are going to move on from Kyler Murray, if we're going to cut him or trade him, and I'll pull up the numbers just to make sure that there's no... I have it actually bookmarked. Kyler Murray's contract is one of the first things that comes up when I type in Spotrac, just to show you how many times I've had to do this. So after 2024, here we go. We're going to move on from Kyler Murray after 2024. If we have a pre-June 1 cut, so pre-June 1, we're just cutting a pre-June 1, $81.5 million in dead cap space for 2024. Just never going to happen. A team is never going to take that level of dead cap hit and be able to do a roster. You cut him post-June 1. So post-June 1, you now spread out the dead cap over 2 seasons. So go with me on this journey, everybody. It is July 1st, and the Cardinals have designated Kyler Murray as a post-June 1 cut, just becomes a free agent. You now have $48.3 million in dead cap for 2024 and $33.2 million in dead cap in 2025. That is what you have in dead cap over the 2 seasons. Sportsnut says, but if there's a generational quarterback sitting in their lap, are you going to pass on that, or are you going to take it and eat that huge chunk of dead cap? Here's why you can't do that, in my opinion, Sportsnut. If you trade him post June 1, it's $13 million in dead cap in 2024, and it's $33 million in 2025. And to me, the crux of this for me is the 2025 dead cap number. Because in any of the scenarios, right, they're not going to trade or cut him pre-June 1. They're not going to do it and take on that kind of dead cap. It's always going to be a post-June 1 thing, in my opinion. You are going to have $33 million in dead cap in 2025. That's year 2 of this generational quarterback that you're going to have on a rookie deal. And you're going to be allocating $33 million that you can't even touch to build around that young quarterback. So I understand that it's a generational quarterback potentially in Caleb Williams. And we'll get there. We'll do the work. I said it in the pre-show. I'm going to watch all the quarterbacks this year. I'm going to watch all the players this year and have grades. First time ever I'm doing this. I'm going to have actual grades on players this year. I'm going to watch the quarterbacks. We'll see if the generational quarterback label can be thrown on any of these guys. But I know you're talking about Caleb Williams when we're having this conversation. You're going to add Caleb Williams, and in 2025, year 2, probably a year or 2 removed from needing to restructure the entire deal and get that quarterback a massive contract extension, right? If the guy plays well, you're going to be looking at that contract extension after year 3, year 4. You're going to completely waste 2025 by having $33 million completely allocated for a guy that's not playing for your team that you can invest in your young roster to help you win in that rookie contract window. That's the issue I have with this, is I don't know if it makes sense. The idea of moving on from Kyler and resetting makes sense. I can understand that. But the financial implications and how it doesn't really put you in an advantageous spot to take advantage of resetting the quarterback money is the problem I have with it. Now, if they trade him pre-June 1, if they do the Rodgers thing, right? They trade him pre-June 1, it's $46 million in dead cap in 2024. And it's a 1 year, you take the pain for $46 million, and then you've washed your hands of this completely for 2025. That could be a scenario that could make some sense. But again, $46.2 million is a massive cap hit to accept, something we have never seen done in this league before. And it is hard for me to believe that Michael Bidwell is going to be the guy that signs up for that. And so that's why I've been so loud and so steadfast about this not being the case. Heldy trolling me in the chat and says, have I ever considered the possibility where they ask Kyler to nicely void his contract? It's true. I did not consider that, Heldy. I apologize. And so that's why, to me, this talk of the Arizona Cardinals being interested in one of these quarterbacks, if these picks end up being high up in this draft class, just is I think, foolish. They've got the quarterback. They paid him. Pre-June 1 is $81 million. Yeah, post-June 1 is $46.2. If he's a pre-June 1 trade, if he's a pre-June 1 cut, it's $81 million. If he's a pre-June 1 trade, it's $46 million. So a trade benefits them. They're not going to cut him pre-June 1. They're either going to cut him post-June 1 or trade him in some capacity. Those are the only scenarios. And again, I don't think it's very likely, folks. I really don't. I'm not sold on that being an option. I really am not. Because again, you're Monty Ossenfort, right? You're the brand new GM of the Arizona Cardinals. Are you taking this job? Are you taking the job? Put yourself in Monty Ossenfort's shoes, everybody. Are you taking this job? And you're going to get potentially half a season of Kyler, if anything, from Kyler, coming off the ACL injury. And you're going to use that, and you're going to immediately make the decision to move on? Because let's play this game out. Much easier to get out of this contract after 2025, where you let him play in 2024, and then you get out of it in that offseason. Then you can trade him. Then you can cut him, and it's a little bit less of a cap hit. Still a big one. Sam says, yes, I would take this job for Caleb Williams. I have a really tough time thinking that that's what Monty Ossenfort was doing. That Monty Ossenfort was already wargaming a year from now the potential quarterback that he could take, because the Cardinals might win enough games on their own to not be the first overall pick. So you'd be betting on the Houston pick getting there. And I know the Cardinals roster is bad, but when Kyler comes back, I think they're going to be able to win a couple of games. That might be enough. So I don't know. Listen, I love this conversation. It's fun every time we have it. And if I'm wrong, I'll you guys know me. I take accountability when I'm wrong, when I make a prediction and I'm wrong about it, right? I'll sit up here and say that I was wrong. I just can't see the Arizona Cardinals taking on the biggest dead cap hit in NFL history next offseason in whatever way they do it, whether it's a trade, whether it's a cut post-June 1. I just cannot get there with that being the direction that they go in. Maybe I'm wrong. I just think Monty Ossenfort has put himself in a great position to build around Kyler Murray. They've already got that part of it done with the contract. I mean, he inherited that contract, but that part of it is done. They have all this draft capital. They had a great draft haul. They can have an even better draft haul in 2024. They can move some picks to set themselves up for another great haul in 2025 and to continue to have this great cacophony of draft selections that they can use to build out this roster around Kyler Murray. And again, I think that is the better direction for them, because this dead cap that would be associated with Caleb Williams or any of the quarterbacks, whether it's Drake May, if it's Michael Penix Jr., if it's Cameron Ward, if it's Bo Nix, whoever it ends up being the top option, Jordan Travis, whoever it ends up being, you have all of these all these quarterbacks you're going to want to build around, and having dead cap associated and not having money to spend to build around those guys in year 2 of their deal, to me, just feels very, very foolish. Okay, I know it's the Friday free-for-all. I know you guys take over the show, but there's a topic that I'd like to discuss, and it's the thumbnail for today's show. You guys see the contract Dexter Lawrence got? That's a pretty good contract. And that position group this offseason has gotten paid pretty handsomely. I mean, Jeffrey Simmons, what did Jeffrey Simmons get? Jeffrey Simmons just signed a contract, 4 years, $94 million in new money, $47.83 million guaranteed at signing. Dexter Lawrence, what did he just get in his contract? 4-year extension, $90 million, I think is what it ended up being for Dexter Lawrence. Not the only New York interior defensive lineman that is going to get paid. You got Jeffrey Simmons getting paid. You got Dexter Lawrence getting paid. And Quinn Williams is right around the corner, and he's probably looking at some of these deals and saying, yeah, sure, great, can't wait. Man, the interior defensive line guys, the guys that have really excelled at that position, it's a position that I think overall in the league, you don't see a ton of top-end talent. But the top-end talent that does exist, those guys have been getting paid. Didn't Deron Payne just signed a contract, 4 years, $90 million back in March. It's another guy we can add to the list. So you got Deron Payne, you got Jeffrey Simmons. We know Aaron Donald, the standard bearer in the division. You can add Dexter Lawrence to the conversation. And now you got to add Quinn Williams to the mix as well. The interior D-line guys getting paid this offseason. Getting a lot of money, resetting that market in a lot of ways. There are right now, Deron Payne, Jeffrey Simmons, and Aaron Donald are, according to OverTheCap.com, and the interior defensive line, the three players at $90 million. We can add Dexter Lawrence to that list. That gets 4. And I think Quinn Williams is going to get there as well. That's 5. So right now, 5 guys at that position making $90 million total on their contract. So a complete shift in the conversation at that position. We are having more talks about the Cardinals in the chat. Al Bundy says, I think if Caleb Williams is available, the Cardinals would take him, redshirt him, and dump Kyler after 2024, to be honest, which is only $33 million in dead cap. So we're gonna keep Kyler. We're gonna make it the worst kept secret in the world after we take Caleb Williams that we're just moving on from Kyler Murray, and we're just gonna redshirt Caleb Williams. We're gonna say, hey Kyler, you know we just drafted your replacement with one of the top picks, potentially the first overall pick. But would you do us a solid, my guy? Would you go out there and just play for us for 17 games, even though everybody knows we're getting rid of you at the end of the season? Boy, would that be a disaster. From a numbers perspective, I understand what you're saying, Al Bundy, but from just an absolute media circus perspective, disaster written all over that. That you draft Caleb Williams with a top pick, again, potentially the number 1 overall pick. You keep Kyler Murray for a year. You redshirt Caleb Williams. I mean, that would be, you want to talk about a disaster on your hands. Because then you're going to have to cut Kyler because there's not a chance anyone's going to trade anything of value to you. And again, Monty Ossenfort's been pretty good right now being a GM. Right, Sam brings up the perfect, they would just tell Murray to stay home at that point and play Williams. They're not going to play Kyler and redshirt Caleb. That's a disaster waiting to happen. Because then after 2024, let's see here. After 2025, or before 2025, or maybe after 2024 is what I need to click on here. Yeah, I mean, it's the money's not that different for me. Like there's still 2 years of dead cap hits that are pretty substantial that impact what you're trying to do. But again, I'm not going to get on board with the idea that they are going to keep Kyler and redshirt him. Also, it looks like here. Let me look at the contract notes. On the 5th day of the league year, of 2024, $18 million of his 2025 salary fully guarantees on the 5th league year day of 2024. So that's another thing to keep an eye on for the Cardinals. So the 5th league day of 2024, so the next offseason, the 5th league day, $18 million of that 2025 salary becomes guaranteed. And so that pushes money into that year. So they've already right now, what was guaranteed at signing was his 2023 salary, his 2022 salary, his 2023 salary and option, and $35.3 million of his 2024 salary were all guaranteed at signing. And so that was the $103 million guaranteed. On the fifth league day of 2024, $18 million of his 2025 fully guaranteed the fifth league year day of 2024. They did this circus with Josh Rosen and Kyler, and then they did Deshaun on the bench while paying him. Teams will do crazy things to get out of bad situations. So here's my problem with that. Josh Rosen never played at the level that Kyler Murray played for the Arizona Cardinals. I'm a critic of Kyler. I don't like the way Kyler's handled some of the things. But Kyler's a totally different player from a standpoint of where he is now as to where Josh Rosen was when they made the decision. They also changed coaches that offseason as well. So a lot changed for the Cardinals. And the Deshaun Watson situation is completely different. It's a completely different team. It's a completely different organization. And Deshaun didn't want to be there. That's different. Kyler just signed a contract extension and has given zero implications about the idea that he wants to be anywhere else. So those two examples don't really do anything for me in terms of having this conversation. Now, the best part is we're going to get to have this conversation because this is going to play out, and we're going to get to next offseason, and we're going to know that we're going to know what the Cardinals are going to do pretty quickly. Tuttle, hypothetical. What if a top QB player stays in school with a generous NIL deal to avoid a team they don't like, the Eli Manning situation, but with an additional option for the player? Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility for that to be the case. As this NIL stuff continues to expand, and it's expanding each and every day, I think it will come a time to have that conversation, and you might see somebody do that in order to not go to the team that has the first overall pick if they know that they're going to be the top option. But it would have to be a generous NIL deal. It would have to be very, very generous to pass up that kind of guaranteed money. And again, that to me is the thing that would stop it, is that there's so much money guaranteed to be in the first overall pick that is a school really going to be able to give that generous of an NIL deal, and is a player going to take on that kind of risk? That's interesting. Jamie says we teased that with Stroud this year. Yeah, I mean, we went up until the deadline with Stroud of what he was going to do, and there were rumors floated all over the place that might have been a potential possibility. Sam says this is the new will Lamar Jackson stay with the Ravens conversation. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going anywhere. They've got two top picks, right? Their pick's probably going to be pretty high because of the Kyler injury. The Houston pick's going to be pretty high just because they're in year one of what they're trying to do there. This conversation's not going away. Sportsnut says, who will be their current team starting QB longer, Daniel Jones or Dak Prescott? Who will be their current team starting quarterback longer, Daniel Jones or Dak Prescott? What's Dak Prescott's contract look like? Because I kind of want to say Daniel Jones, but if Dak has a longer contract in which they can't really get out of, then I will pivot. The Dallas Cowboys is who I'm looking for, and I'm looking for Dakota Rain Prescott. Dakota Rain Prescott has one more year on his deal, and then he's got 2 void years. Daniel Jones will be their team's current team starting quarterback longer. Daniel Jones will be with the Giants longer than Dak Prescott is with the Dallas Cowboys from this point moving forward. I only brought up Rosen because they made it a circus. I wasn't comparing the situations as the same. Yeah, but we have to compare the situations, right? Because the level of circus that you are discussing makes the Rosen thing look like the merry-go-round at the local mall compared to when the circus comes to town. And they, the fair comes in and brings. I mean, that's the difference here between these. And so for me, that's why using that as an example is just is a non-starter, because I think they're apples and oranges. I don't think they're particularly close. All right, well, that's going to do it for the podcast edition of the show. Appreciate everybody hanging out here, giving us some great conversations here. Glad we were able to sneak in the Dexter Lawrence conversation, because that was the thumbnail of the YouTube show, so I kind of wanted to sneak that in there. But appreciate everybody making this show a part of their day, whether you listen to 1, 2, 3, all 5 episodes during the week. You sneak them in over the weekend. Appreciate. There's a lot of things that you could be doing with your time. There's a lot of podcasts and shows and content that you could be consuming, so it means the world that you would click on one of these shows, whether it's the podcast version or the YouTube version, and you would hang out with me for at least part of your day. So I appreciate every single one of you. Please rate, review, subscribe to the podcast, share the podcast, tell a friend, continue to grow this show. We are in for a fantastic 2024 NFL season and a fantastic 2024 NFL draft cycle and a fantastic 2023 NFL season. And I'm very excited for some of the content that I am working on behind the scenes for this show, and can't wait to share all of those things with you here in the near future. So appreciate everybody making this show a part of their day. Hope everybody has a great weekend. I will talk to everybody on Monday. We in the post show. I didn't even get to talk about Peter Skoronski's boring meeting with Arthur Smith. I didn't even get to sneak that in. Disappointing. But I appreciate all the questions, so it was fun. And I love having the Kyler conversation because it challenges me to think and to say my, to continue to say my argument and make sure that I'm doing a good job phrasing my argument so that it makes sense. But I can tell you right now, there's gonna come a point. It's not right now. There's gonna be a point where I'm gonna get tired of having that conversation. Arthur Smith strikes me as a hot seat candidate for 2023. They just took a running back in the top 10. We can't be having Arthur Smith on the hot seat when we're making picks like that. Now, Bijan's a great player, and I love that they did it, but I don't think you make that kind of pick if you think you're on the hot seat. I really don't. Maybe you do. Maybe you do because you just don't care. You're like, all right, if they're gonna fire me, at least I got my guy. At least I drafted Bijan. Who cares? I mean, maybe. Let's see. Let's do a quick. Where's my notebook? We'll bring out that. We got 18 minutes. Let's do a Chris Schubert power rankings, very quick, off the cuff here. Let me open up a new page. Is anybody like me and doesn't use the backside of a notebook? Just move to the next page. We're gonna do a top 5 head coaching, in-season firing, power rankings. Okay, that's what we're gonna do here. Power rankings. I've got it here. We're gonna do an impromptu. Okay, we've got 17 minutes to work this out here before I got to go to the TDN staff meeting. So 3, 4, 5. All right, I'm just gonna show everybody. Here you go. We've got the list here, ready to go. Okay. Okay, all right. Coming up with 5 is going to be tough here. Oh. Kevin Stefanski is going to go number 2 on the list. Kevin Stefanski, number 2 on the list. We are going to put Ron Rivera, number 3 on the list. No, because I want to put Todd Bowles in-season firing. We're talking in-season. Are they going to fire Todd in-season? They're giving him Baker Mayfield and Kyle Trask, for goodness sakes. We're going to fire him mid-season. Ron Rivera might get fired. We're going to make a change. Ron Rivera is going to go to the number 1 spot. Because we've basically got who our next coach is going to be, right? We've got Eric Bieniemy. If we fire Ron Rivera in season, we can just be like, Eric Bieniemy, you're the new head coach of the Washington Commanders. Boom, away we go. We're fine. So Ron Rivera is going to be number 1. Kevin Stefanski is going to be number 2. I'll put Brandon Staley down, but I don't really love it because I think they're going to be fine. But I think if they get off to a bad start, then that's going to happen. That's 3. That's 3. I'm going to put Todd on the list, but I'm going to put him 5 because I really don't think he's going to get fired in season. Could he get fired at the end of the season? Potentially. McCarthy's a good one. I don't think Vrabel gets fired. I think Vrabel's good. If Dallas gets off to a bad start, could McCarthy go? McCarthy does sound legit. I mean, I can't think of anything. Like Gannon, McVay's not going to get fired midseason in there. Kyle Shanahan, no. Pete Carroll, no. So you rule out the West. Arthur Smith, hold on. We were just talking about Arthur Smith. Is this the spot we put Arthur Smith? I went through the whole list that we didn't put him down. So we'll put Arthur Smith's name to the side. The Saints, no. Well, Dennis Allen? If they don't perform well, do they make a change? Or do they give him a full year plus with Derek? Do they say, all right, Dennis, you get a year, and then next year in 2024, if it doesn't get off to a good start, you're gone? That feels more likely to me. We already mentioned Bowles. Eberflus, year 2 of Eberflus. I don't think they would move on from Eberflus. The money with McDaniels, I think, is going to make that almost impossible. Sports not. LaFleur in Green Bay, no, they just changed quarterbacks. Dan Campbell in Detroit, no. Kevin O'Connell, no. He did such a good job in year 1. All right, nobody in the North. Dable, no. McCarthy will put on the short list. Nobody else in the West. Nobody else in the South. I don't think. I'm not putting Vrabel on there. I already put Stefanski. I'm not putting anybody on the Bengals, Ravens, or Steelers. They're not going to fire Bill mid-season. McDaniel's not going anywhere. They just made the playoffs for the first time in forever? The Bills, no. I mean, we're debating Mike McCarthy, Arthur Smith are the two names we're kind of debating here. Mike McCarthy and Arthur Smith. In season, we're putting Mike McCarthy's name down. So our top 5 head coaching in-season firing power rankings, very off-the-cuff impromptu here on a Friday, May 5th. Ron Rivera 1, Kevin Stefanski 2, Brandon Staley 3, Mike McCarthy 4, Todd Bowles 5. Any objections? Any major objections? Anybody that we feel we need to get on the list? Anybody that we need to get out of the list? People are saying McCarthy won't go. Sam says approved. Love when we get the Sam Teets approval in the chat. We could the names that we could consider would be Arthur Smith. We could consider Dennis Allen if we wanted to. Again, I don't think so, but we could consider it. We could consider Mike Vrabel. We could consider Robert Saleh. I don't think so, but we could consider it. I'd be shocked, but if they really don't play well, that could get ugly quickly. If with Aaron they don't play well, and they might do something to try to salvage the season. But I feel comfortable with the list that we've put together here. So Ron Rivera, Kevin Stefanski, Brandon Staley, Mike McCarthy, Todd Bowles as our May 5th, way too early top 5 head coaching in-season firing power rankings. We should do this. We should do this regularly. You know what? Every Friday we should do a impromptu, off-the-cuff power ranking of things. So start thinking of ideas, everybody, and then just hit me with them next Friday, and we'll do them. All right, that is going to do it for us here on this edition of TDN Daily. Appreciate everybody being here throughout the week. I can't tell you how much fun I'm having doing this show every day with you guys here on the YouTube, and I'm very excited to continue to see it grow, to continue to see it develop here as we get into training camp and preseason, and then the NFL season. There should be a lot of fun, and I hope to continue to grow this. And we already have a great community here on this show and in the TDN Premium Discord. But I cannot wait to continue to grow this community and have a lot of fun talking football on a regular basis here. So it's been a lot of fun, and I appreciate everybody for laying the base, laying the foundation here for us each and every day as we continue to grow this thing out. So I hope everybody has a great weekend. Enjoy whatever you may be doing. I've got 2 baseball games I'm going to this weekend as my major weekend activity here. Now that the draft's in the rearview mirror, a little more free time on the weekends, so some baseball for me this weekend. So I hope everybody, whatever you're doing this weekend, you have a good one. You guys know the drill. We'll be back here Monday, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for another edition of TDN Daily. So appreciate everybody being here. Hope everybody has a great weekend. Talk to you on Monday.